Hi, everybody. Welcome. So good afternoon, everyone. We are so glad to see so many of you join us in such a nice afternoon. Today, we are going to have a very interesting panel with us. And I'm Jasmine Xu, a faculty member here at FLAME, heading and promoting digital learning initiative. On behalf of the FLAME community, I want to welcome you all to join us at today's ConneXions webinar series. FLAME ConneXions is a webinar series that helps you connect the dots beyond the discipline of boundaries, invites everyone to look at beyond the obvious, to inquire within yourself, and to have conversations with each other when we are facing such a difficult uncertainty in life during COVID-19 crisis. Our speaker, Dr. Dishan Kamdar, also our Vice-Chancellor, is someone who managed to wear multiple hats at ease. He's a renowned scholar in organizational behavior, negotiation analysis, and decision-making. He is widely respected in academia in India, as well as globally. He is also an executive coach to top leaders, CEOs, to help handle crisis and manage those difficult conversations. He was one of the most popular professors and received the Professor of the Year awards, not just once, but multiple times in his decade of teaching at Indian School of Business prior to joining FLAME. After coming to FLAME, even with his packed schedule as the Vice-Chancellor, he always makes time to meet with students, listen to their needs, and inspire them to achieve more. We are very fortunate to have our Vice-Chancellor with us here at FLAME as our leader and inspire us, support us throughout this critical time. We are very pleased to have him with us today. And joining Dr. Kamdar are Advait Makhija and Shravan Pandit, who are also members of the community. Advait is a proud FLAME alum, class of 2019, an entrepreneur. Started the food tech startup, Eatable, in August 2019. Eatable specialized in personalized dining experience powered by artificial intelligence. In such a short time, Advait's effort and commitment have attracted the first round of seed fundings for Edible and was selected by the Reliance Geo Accelerator Program. Shravan Pandit, a postgraduate student of FLAME University's MBA program. He is an active student leader in the FLAME community. He currently serves as FLAME University's vice captain from PG program in the student council and also holds 4 additional leadership designations. I don't think we can put together another panel like this to talk about the topic of leadership during adversity. What will our conversations with him between Dr. Kamdar, a seasoned scholar, a well-respected leader, Advait, a young, inspiring entrepreneur, and Shravan, a student leader, take us? I am told that I should have this introduction as short as possible, so I'm going to leave it here. And let's welcome the 3 panelists today to our webinar topic, Leadership Under Advisory. Over to you, Dr. Kamdar.
Sure. Thank you very much, Jasmine, for your very gracious introduction. And also thanks to Shravan and Advait for your help in moderating this talk today.
It's a pleasure being here.
Pleasure being here.
Wonderful. So Shravan and Advait are going to be helping me monitor questions as we talk, as we discuss this very important topic. And I will try to restrict my talk for half an hour so that enough time can be given to questions and answers. Right? Well, it's an interesting topic today. Very apt for what's happening to all of us. We are all in a crisis, unprecedented. We talk about the VUCA world, without understanding what volatility means, ambiguity means. And right now we are all thrown into a complete, VUCA experiment. All of us at this point of time are going through some form of adversity or another in our personal lives, in our professional lives. So when I talk about leadership, I'm talking about all of us as leaders out here in our respective, journeys in life, may it be personal or professional. And I think it's important for us to first understand, what crisis or adversity does to us. There is a boatload of information out there in the internet, lots of frameworks, lots of structures provided in the internet, textbooks, research articles that tells you what to do during adversity. But the premise, so these are implementation plans given to you, but successful implementation requires two things, in my opinion. The leader has to be sane. We are human beings, end of the day, right? It takes into, it takes for granted that the leader is a demigod or a superman or superwoman who is unaffected emotionally by adversity, right? So for a leader to successfully navigate his or her organization during adversity, it's very important that you are sound mentally, right, and emotionally as well, right? And second prerequisite for successful management of adversity is to have enough people on your side. You can't do it alone, right? So I'm going to be talking about these prerequisites today. How do you ensure that your mind and your heart are stable during adversity, right? As a leader, that's very important. Because if you don't fix the leader, you can't fix the adversity. It's as simple as that, right? So let's first analyze what happens to a leader during any adversity situation, right? First of all, you are under tremendous pressure, right? Tremendous pressure from each and every stakeholder group. The management is pressurizing you. Your employees are looking up to you. Hey, you know what? We don't want to be affected. Look after us. The entire supply chain, from buyers, sellers, and every bit of the supply chain have their hopes high, right? Hoping that they won't be affected. You will take care of them, given the personal rapport that you experience. Regulators would be after you. The media is watching what you are doing. There is tremendous pressure, right? So remember, the leader is just a normal mortal like you and I, with emotions, with heart that's beating, right? Now, so now the leader is under tremendous pressure from all directions. Now, to complicate this further, demands from the stakeholder groups are not aligned, right? So if you help one stakeholder group, the other gets upset. Now, that complicates things even further. They're not aligned at all. So now you, as a leader, you share good rapport with all the stakeholders, and now you have to decide what you want to do, whom to prioritize, whom not to prioritize, right? It's not an easy call to take. Now, that's not it. Let's add on to this complication to the leader during adversity. Now, I'm under pressure and I have to decide what to do, and everyone is looking up to me. Hopefully, I'm not affected. Then what happens? You have to take decisions quickly. This is an adversity, right? Something just happened abruptly and we got to react, and everyone expects you to react quickly. Now, there's a trade-off between speed and accuracy. Now, right, you are a leader, you got to be accurate, but how can I be accurate under all these pressures and, given finite time to take a call, right, to steer my organization in the right direction? Now, that's not it, right? There's a second layer of compounded pressure to the leader. Now, I need to take my decisions swiftly. Now, over and above that situation, I need to rely on data to take decisions. And during adversity, your data is incomplete. Now just imagine the leader's pressure, right? I'm under pressure, everyone looks up to me, I need to take quick decisions, and the data I have is incomplete. Now that's not it. There's one more layer of problem there, right, of complexity. The data that I have today will not be relevant tomorrow. And that's the nature of adversity. Things keep changing. Right? So under the current data that I have, I'll take a logical call, or I'll take an emotional call, or a mix of both of them. But lo and behold, tomorrow new regulation comes up, and you know what? I fall flat on the ground again. Right? So just imagine the pressure that a leader goes through, right? Now, I'm not complete here. There's more multiple layers of pressure for the leader. So now you have everyone looking up to you. You have to take decisions under incomplete data, many times irrelevant data as well. And during adversity, what happens to the leader? You are under a microscope. Everyone is looking at you. Everyone is watching every step you take, right? Now for the stakeholders, they're looking at you with that level of optimism that, you know what, you're going to save us, you're going to help us sail through. But at the same time, every leader has his or her rivals as well, within organizations, outside the organization, who are just, these barracudas or shenanigans, whatever we call them, right? Waiting for you to slip, Now here it's so easy for you to slip because you're going to take a call, you're going to upset one or two stakeholder groups, and all they have to do is to just rile them up against you, right? So that is then added pressure, that a leader faces. Compounding this further, the leader is expected to be there 24/7. These are crisis moments, right? So I have to be a call away as a leader, right? To every stakeholder group, right? From my suppliers to my board, to my employees, because they themselves are anxious and they need to talk to someone, and I better be there as a leader, right? Now I'm expected there to be 24/7, like as though I am a supermodel out here. Now, what happens to my personal life under all these circumstances? I'm anxious. When I go back home, for example, as a leader, I am not in my normal mindset at home. So I have added pressure for my family now, right? Family life goes, we take a leader's family life for granted most of the time, their personal life for granted most of the time, right? So, my starting point is we need to understand what a leader undergoes during adversity, right? And the leader is a normal person like you and I. I think the leader needs empathy. It's not a fun place to be in. We can mock, Narendra Modi today, right? But, we can understand the pressures that he goes through when he takes calls today. It's easy to mock at leaders out here, right? But, the starting point is let's understand their pressure points. Let's empathize them. And if you can't empathize them, please don't mock it. It's not a fun place to be in because you are at a moral and logical crossroad. And that's what adversity does to you as a leader. So for the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to, shout out to all leaders out there who are in this situation right now, right? Pata nahi kya karna, right? I'm under pressure, right? I need to do justice. I don't know what justice means. And I'm going to help you fix yourself as leaders, right? So so the starting point is, how do you fix yourself when you're in such a crossroad, right? And like I said, my talk will be around leaders fixing themselves first so they are strong, so they can steer the ship during adversity, and leaders ensuring that people are there with them during adversity. That's very important, right? So I'm going to talk about, you fixing yourself during such moments. So you are afraid, definitely there's fear, there's anxiety, there's uncertainty, and I need to take calls and I need to bring my people along, right? So let's think about decision making. Right? How do we make decisions on, let's say on a normal day without a crisis situation hitting us? On a normal day as a leader, right? When you make decisions, on behalf of your organization, personal life, professional lives, there's only, I would say, either you use your logical mind or you use your emotional mind. There are only two ways in which we take decisions as leaders. It's an emotional call or logical call, right? I'm going to take an audience poll right now. I'm going to request Shravan and Advait to help me out here. Here's the question on your screen, right? How do you make a decision as a leader on a normal day? Do you use emotions, which is your heart, or you use logic, which is your mind? Click one of them and we'll see the results out here in 2 minutes. Can you share the results, please?
So we have 78% of people who have voted for logically, and 23% who have taken emotionally.
Wonderful, wonderful. Those of you who belong to this 78% category, I hope you are right, but I'm inclined to think that you think you make logical calls, but it's end of the day emotional calls that you make. I'll give you some examples to think about this, right? Example number one. What is one of the most profitable industry in the world today? One of the most profitable industry is the diet industry, right? The diet industry is valued at 50 billion right now in the United States, all right? Forget the world. Now, what does the diet industry do to us? It tells you how much to exercise, how to exercise, how much to eat, and when to eat, correct? Like we don't know, right? Why do you need the gym instructor in the gym? Otherwise, you can't hit the gym because I'm not motivated. It's all emotions and logic, right? My logical mind tells me that, Dishan, if you love yourself and you love your family, you better be fit. Which means you got to hit the gym at 6 a.m. in the morning, right? So I set my alarm at 6 in the morning. I listen to my logical mind. My logical mind is in the driver's seat. My emotional mind is my back, in the back seat. That's what I think it is. And morning 6 a.m. the alarm rings. What do? My emotional mind tells me that, you know what, pity yourself, dude. You know, you had a long day. You're working so hard on your assignments. You know, aaj ek cheat day ho jaye. You know, then you snooze your alarm and you snooze it to glory 20 times. And you don't only, mess up your sleep, but you mess up your partner's sleep as well. I mean, I hope my wife is dialing in, as a message to her as well. So, jokes aside, so, I mean, that's emotions, right? We think we make logical call, but end of the day, for most of us, we don't realize our emotions are driving most decisions. And that's why it's so difficult for us to give up smoking, for example. You know, smoking is injurious to health. You know, you have to give up smoking. Logic tells you, I love my family. I need to stop I love myself as well. Let's stop smoking, right? But what happens end of the day? You have to smoke. I mean, it's so difficult to give up smoking. Why? Because your emotional mind will take over and start, showing you all those, pitiful pictures of yourself, right? I'll give you another example from the corporate world. When you hire employees, you interview 5 people. While you interview 5 people, you connect with one of them. You say, "Ye banda humko chahiye," right? Now that's an emotional call because you connect with this person. Then what do you do end of the day? After hiring all these 5 people, you go back to their CV, their resumes, and look for justification to single this person out based on merit vis-a-vis the other 5. Right? You are using logic to rationalize your emotional call, right? So the point I'm trying to make here is on a day-to-day decision making, either we use our logical mind or we use our emotional mind. It's either one of those. One is in a driver's seat and one is in the back seat. Now, what happens during adversity, right? What happens during crisis? Now, your logical mind says, hey, you know what? I don't want to drive the seat today because there's no data. I need to make calls very quickly, right? So there's no logic to decision making. You know what? I'm going to take the back seat. The emotional mind, you please take the driver's seat. Now, what does the emotional mind tell the logical mind, right? The emotional mind says, you know what? I don't want to be in a driver's seat today because I'm in a moral dilemma here. I'm at moral crossroads. I don't know who to support, which stakeholder to support. Now, I don't want to drive this seat today. So during adversity, our emotions and our logic, they are both destable. That's what happens to us as leaders. We are human beings, and that's what happens to us scientifically, right? Now, unless and until you fix yourself, you get your logic, which is your mind, and your emotions, your heart, to be stable, you will not be able to, steer your organization during crisis. You need to be stable first. Now, how do you heal yourself? And the answer is in your soul. When your mind is not working, when your heart is not working, the answer is in your spiritual balm, right? So you need to embrace spiritual leadership during crisis moments. Now, when I talk about spirituality, I'm not talking about a particular, religion here. It's not about religiosity here. It's not about religion. It's about a way of life. It's about a mind frame which you need to adapt during crisis situation. And I'm going to talk about three spiritual cues here. They will help you, right, take decisions in a right manner during crisis situation, all right? The first point I want to make revolves around not being a people's person. We are human beings, we are social animals, and we want to ingratiate ourselves against everyone. We want everyone to be happy with us. We want to appease everyone. And that's something that you need to give up, being a strong leader. Decision-making during normal days revolves around being right versus being liked. That's it, right? Any decision that you take, personal life or professional life, either you stand for what you think is right and not worry about what people think, or you worry about what people think and not worry about what you think. Either you ingratiate or you stand for what is right. That's how we take decisions, right? So now here's a shout to all my leaders out there. When we were junior managers, right, we started our career, out of all the decisions we took, 90% revolves around being liked because we want to rise up the ladder. We want to appease everyone. So I get my promotion, blah, 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 right? Then when we become mid-level managers, what happens? 50% of the time, the decision revolves around being right. 50% of the time, being liked. Where you are right now as a CXO, CC -1, 100% of the time, in my view, your decision should revolve around being right rather than being liked. Stop being a people pleaser. Very, very important. For those of you who think otherwise, that, people pleasing is very, very important. Here's a very simple example, for you to think through. Okay. I'll think of an analogy. I'm going to ask Advait a simple question, right? Advait, let's imagine, 1 year back, you were traveling to France, right? You're in Paris right now, and there's an Eiffel Tower behind you.
I wish I was, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the first thing you will do?
I will put it on my Instagram story.
You'll take a selfie first, right? You'll take a selfie.
Yeah, put a selfie with it. Yeah. Yeah.
And that too, not alone, right? If wife or your girlfriend is next to you, with the best smile, right? You take a selfie shot.
For sure.
Now, so once you take this selfie shot, as you said, you cannot keep it for your personal repository.
Yeah.
Right? Your fingers will itch. Your fingers will itch, and you have to post this in Facebook or whatever social media sites. Correct? You talk about Instagram. Right?
Yeah.
Now, what is the motivation behind posting your pictures in Facebook? What is the motivation behind posting them in Insta and all the social media sites?
I think part of it would be sort of to, show the rest of my friends and acquaintances, the kind of life that I'm living, only the best parts of it, I guess, the fun highlights.
Perfect. Most of us do that. You're not alone here, correct?
Yeah.
Now, one of the motivation for posting all this in Facebook, for example, is because we think we are living in this hallucinated world in my mind, right? We think that the 2,000 friends that we have out there would be happy with our well-being when they see our wonderful, happy picture posted in Facebook.
Right.
Because they're all my friends out there. My 2,000 friends, you know what, I'm in France, I'm having a great time. Bless me right now, correct? Cross your heart and tell me the truth. Most of them out there, are they going to be happy with your well-being, or you're going to be generating envy?
Envy.
How many well-wishes do you really have, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. You spend all your life trying to appease everyone around the world without realizing aapke sage bahut kam hai. So it's a very important call for all the leaders out there, right? I mean, who are your true well-wishers out there? You can count with your 5 fingers out here, your family, a few friends. There you ingratiate yourself, right? There you be a people pleaser, bindas, no problem. But for the rest of them, focus on being right, right? So that's the first spiritual call I would like to make here. The right versus like balance. You want to be liked for being right, for being consistent. Don't be a people pleaser, because you know what? End of the day, most of them are not your well-wishers. Right? Maybe it's a hard statement here. Spiritual call number 2, right? Or balm number 2. You need to live in the present, especially during adversity. You plan for the future, given whatever data you have, but live in the present. And why do you need? So, I mean, we call it mindfulness, but it's so important. I saw a YouTube video, showing father and son, living their residence early in the morning at 8 a.m. Son has a very busy day, so he starts his day with with his 2-hour badminton practice, followed by mathematics and science tuition, goes to school, has his, swimming practice. He's lost tired and he's coming back home at 7 p.m. Now, father, in contrast, has a very comfortable day, goes to office in his chauffeur-driven air-conditioned car, has meeting in his air-conditioned office, has lunch in his air-conditioned cafeteria, and after a so-called long day, father comes back at 7 p.m. rather early that day, in his chauffeur-driven air-conditioned car. Now, son meets father, by the foyer of the building, and son is so delighted. The son shouts out at father, says, Daddy, you are back home early today. And daddy says, yes, I'm home early, son. And then son makes the pitch, Dad, let's play basketball. What would daddy say? I'm tired, yaar. Right? I mean, what have you done to be tired? Lazy fellow, right? You are tired because you are not physically tired, you are mentally tired. You are mentally and emotionally worn away. And why are you mentally tired? Because you're worrying about things you cannot control. You're worrying about the past and you're worried about the future. You're not living in the present. Your child is full of energy because your child is living in the present. And if you want to be like your child living in the present, and if you want, because that energy is very important, you need to energize your team during crisis. Right? And if you want to be full of energy as a leader, you need to live in the present. Yes, you plan for the future. Right now you are at this cross section, you have limited data, you need to take decisions swiftly, you have forecasted for tomorrow, day after, abhi kya kar payenge? Kal ka kal dekh lenge. Stop worrying, take that call, sleep peacefully, and be full of energy, right? Because most of us as leaders are unable to take calls because we worry about, Arey yaar, if I do this, what's going to happen tomorrow? If I do that, what's going to happen tomorrow? But take an informed decision and let the future decide, and then recalibrate and move on. And that's a necessary condition for you to be a leader, right? So live in the present, that's another balm for you, right? To keep your mind and heart stable. The third point, which I want to make, revolves around attached detachment principle, especially important during crisis situation. You need to be detachedly attached, right? I'm going to make this point by walking all the participants through another poll, right? Shravan or Advait, can you just show the picture, please? So dear participants, you're going to take a decision right away, and your decision will help me validate some of the point I'm trying to make right now. We are going to walk you through a simple experiment called the trolley experiment. You would have found this in the internet somewhere, all right? So if you see this diagram here, it's scenario A, and you see this train track coming down south. And you as a participant, you are the leader today, you are standing by this switch here, all right? Now, what you notice here are 5 MBA students from the School of Deaf and Dumb, right? There's a neighboring school for the deaf and dumb, and you recognize them. And there are 5 MBA students who can't hear, who can't talk, and they're walking southwards, right? They're walking southwards, and you notice that the train is coming, and you are in a moral dilemma. Either do nothing, don't change the track, so don't pull that switch. So if you do nothing, the train will continue and kill 4 people. Now, if you do something, you switch tracks, the train will take the other path, and end of the day kill only 1 person. Who says leadership is easy? It's a moral dilemma, and you are a leader, you got to take the call. Do something or do nothing. What will you do as a leader? Do nothing or do something. If you do something, you save 3 lives. You do nothing, 4 people will get killed. Please submit your answers. Do we have the poll?
Just a second, sir. People are still voting.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like 88% people said that they would do something and switch the track, and around 12% said they would do nothing and allow the train to continue.
Right. So these are great leaders out here. It's a moral dilemma, but you got to call the shots. That's why you're the leader. So do something and save lives. Am I right? Almost 90% did something. That's scenario number 1. Great. Now here's scenario 2 again. I need you to take the poll again, but I've just changed the narrative a little bit now. Now there's 1 person out there in track B here. They are 4 and 1. Now that 1 person over there is your deaf and dumb brother. That's the only change in the story now. Please take the poll again. Do something or do nothing, and please be brutally honest.
Just a few more seconds, sir. People are still voting.
Sure. This is an example of moral dilemma. And that's what happens to you as a leader.
Okay, so this time only 45% people say do nothing and allow the train to continue, and even though it'll kill 4 people, and 55% have still said they'll do something and switch the train track, as compared to 90%, which was
right. For this 55%, I sympathize your brother. I'm just joking out here, all right? but you understand, issues in moral dilemma here. Now, during crisis situation, you are not having this one detour track. So the brother out here is your management. There's a second track there, which are your customers. There's a third track there, which is your supply chain. 4 or 5 tracks out there. Then there are regulators. Now you are at the center and you don't know where to pull your train, right? So, so all you need to do is to detach from this attachment out here and take an optimized decision that causes least harm to maximum stakeholders, right? And also it all depends on your moral compass. Where is it on the totem pole? So it depends on your organization's moral compass as well. And you as a leader, your moral compass. Many times, they are orthogonal, right? So I don't have a right or wrong answer out here, but if you remain attached, then you will sway like this. On one side, I feel I got to save this guy. On the other side, I should not save. And you are in that pendulum throughout crisis. You can't take calls, right? So bottom line, the spiritual heal, which I talked about, revolves around you not being a people pleaser, number 1, you living in the present, number 2, and number 3, detach yourself, all right? And when you embrace these 3 qualities, you'll be able to step back and view the problem from a very different lens. The dark clouds will clear. You are re-energized as a leader. You can think of an optimal solution. Otherwise, you'll just swing like a pendulum, right? So these are 3 ways in which you fix the leader, all right? Now you can fix the crisis. Now, like I said, effective crisis management requires the leader to be strong, which we just talked about. And it requires the leader to have people by his side or her side. That's extremely important. The literature is silent on this very vital point, right? I'm just going to move on to this topic here. And, I think leadership is over-glorified. I would simplify leadership as just getting tasks done. So there's one part of leadership that talks about task centrism. You as a leader, you are responsible in taking your organization to the next level. That requires you to be high on task centrism, right? And I'm not going to talk about task centrism here because most leaders in India do a brilliant job here with KRAs, KPIs, stretch targets, and taking the blood out of you, whatever it is, right? We are brilliant in task centrism. But if you only rely on task centrism and you forget to be people-centric, you'll be all alone during crisis. And if you lead via only task centrism and forget people-centrism out here, then what's going to happen? Your people are going to deliver, but they are going to bring only their hands to work, maybe their heads to work, but not their hearts to work. You want people to bring their hearts to work. You want people to be intrinsically motivated. You want people to be there with you during crisis situation, and they will be there with you if you treat them right. You can't say, understand me as a leader when you have not treated, them right. So I'm going to spend 5 minutes now talking about things you can do to be people-centric. I think this is very important. All right. So while you deliver on task centrism, I'm not saying be low on task centrism, but also be high on people centrism while you get the task to be delivered. Okay. So 5 very simple points to be high on people centrism. Number 1, you got to respect everyone. Respect is key. All right. It's a primary motivator for human beings. It's a primary motivator that binds relationship. It's a primary ingredient for you to get connected with other people. If I want to get connected to you, Advait, or Shravan, or whoever, I need to respect you first. I mean, me and my good friends, we share a good rapport, but what if respect goes out of the whack? Me and my wife, for example, what if love resides in, it grows in respect? So respect is a fundamental ingredient when you manage your workforce. Right from the person at the lowest ebb of the hierarchy till the board, respect each and every one. I usually judge a leader by the way he or she treats, you know, the peons, the drivers, for example, the housekeeping individuals, right? The gardeners. I mean, you got to be respecting everyone, right? Especially, you know, people at the lowest strata, okay, within the organization. So you treat people with respect and dignity. That's the starting point of driving people-centric vehicle out here, all right? Number two, you got to be authentic. As a leader, you know, you just have to be authentic. That's it. Why? Because you want people to get connected to you, and you get to connect it to people who are real, right? I've seen so many ex-students of mine, right? I still counsel them. You know, I'm in touch with a lot of my ex-students and my current students at Flame. You know, sir, I've got a promotion. After promotion, when I look at that person, it's a different animal altogether, right? Why? Just because I'm a leader right now and I've got to behave differently. No, just be your normal self, be real, that's it. Respect people, be real, be like the strict father, you know, who's strict for work to get done. At the same time, you love your people. But you don't have to have different faces at different, you know, when you meet different stakeholders, just be your natural self, right? Advait can be a Shravan, Shravan can be a Dishan, Dishan can be an Advait. It's as simple as that, all right? So be authentic, right? Third point, for you to get people intrinsically be motivated, and this is the biggest problem in India, if you ask me, you have to remove insecurity. Most leaders I have seen, at least because we come from a culture that celebrates power distance, perhaps, you know, very insecure, God knows why, right? I feel being in leadership position is a blessing in disguise, if you ask me, right? But you know, I'm a CEO coach myself. I interact with many leaders. One thing I've noted in India, there is a culture that most leaders, you know, are somehow very insecure. You know, if you have a subordinate as high potential, the first thing you do is going to, you know, mess up his happiness so that this person is out of the organization. You want to be clear, you know, you want to remain the leader forever. You know what? All those guys who are insecure, here are two messages for you. Number one, I would like you to right now think within your organization and outside your organization. Can you name me at least 5 people who are more competent than you to take up your role? I'm sure you can if you are truthful to yourself. And if there are 5 or more competent people than you, and you being chosen to be a leader, should you not be counting your blessings? Now those guys will continue to be managers and I'm a leader. And what's the difference between me and them? As a leader, I can create impact, right? I can change lives, right? As a leader, I can provide growth options to my people. So please remember, right? You need to count your blessing to be a leader, because there's some element of luck, in my view at least, because there's always more competent people around there that deserves that. I mean, forget other people, even me as a VC, I can think of so many people within Flame and outside Flame who deserves to be the VC, right? But you know, if I'm chosen to be the VC, I need to count my blessings, and henceforth, given the opportunity to be a leader, I need to make a difference to as many people as I can. It's give back time, all right? Now I would like to share another data point with all of you. You know, I was reading a research article recently that talked about the pyramid of wealth. I'm not too sure whether you know this, you know, audiences, but if you are making more than 32,000 US dollars per annum, CTC I'm talking about, annum, which is around 23 lakhs, you know, INR, right? Did you know this? If you make 32,000 USD per annum, you're amongst the top 1 percentile in this entire humanity. If you draw this pyramid of wealth, and if you are making more than 23 lakhs per annum CTC, you're amongst not the top 1 percentile in India, top 1 percentile in this entire world. And most of my C-level folks out there are making 3 times or 4 times this amount. Should you not embrace gratitude? That's my question. Then why insecurity, right? There are billions of people who are dying to trade places with you. Billions of people who in their daily prayer saying, agar ye sahib or ye madam ka humko even 1/15th mil gaya na, meri life set, right? There's their daily prayers, and you are out there still trying to kill other people's happiness by being insecure, right? So it's time for us to wake up and make a difference to others. That's leadership, right? Count your blessings and create impact, all right? So you need to remove insecurity. That's my point number 3, right? So we talk about task centrism, we talk about people centrism. In people centrism, let me repeat my 3 points. Number 1, you need to respect people. Number 2, you need to be authentic. And number 3, you need to remove insecurity. Then people are going to just, be so loyal towards you and your mission and vision. Point number 4, another very important point for leaders in India, especially, you need to trust your people. How do you define trust? Someone asked me, when I was conducting a program at Flame in January, one of the participants asked me, Dishan, how do you define trust? And my response is, trust is nothing but your willingness to be vulnerable. And as a leader, you need to be willing to be vulnerable to your people. And why you need to be willing to be vulnerable? So that you become real. If you are not willing to be vulnerable, you are fake, you are plastic, right? And people will not connect with you, right? You want your people to connect with you and your vision, and you need to be real, and you need to create a culture that thrives on trust, right? Now, some of you will say, Dishan, it's easy to say, but you know what? People will take advantage of me. Now, here's a data back to you. Out of 100 employees you have, and you trust all of them wholeheartedly, how many of them will take advantage of you? 20%? 25%? Then why are you penalizing the 75%? That's my question. Net, you're still better off trusting everyone. It's like poisonous snakes. Only 5% of all the snakes are poisonous. But you assume that everyone is poisonous. All the snakes are poisonous. So when you see a snake, you run away. You want to kill that snake. But only 5%, right? But you think so same thing, right? For that 20% of people who take advantage of you, you don't trust the 80%. You micromanage, you question everything they do, right? That's not done. To be a great leader, you need to learn how to trust your people. Now, if you cannot trust, get rid of that person. But if you have the person reporting to you, you better trust that person, right? So now what would trust lead to? Trust leads to my point number 5, empowerment. A lot of people talk about, what I empower, but I don't trust. That doesn't make sense to me. Trust is the facilitating factor for empowerment. Please remember, if you trust, then you can empower, right? Now, empowerment thrives when you have 2 very important cultures created. Number 1, you allow people to fail, and you allow people to voice. You allow them to speak up. If you empower without allowing people to fail, if you empower without allowing people to speak up, the empowerment will fail. How many of us would be able, so when we were young, when we learned how to ride a bicycle, how many of us learned how to ride a bicycle without falling? Some of us fall once, some twice, some 3 times, correct? But that fall was necessary to seek balance. Those are growth lessons. Failures are not failures. They are growth lessons, and they are necessary ingredients for leadership, if you ask me. So you should allow your people to fail till they seek balance, and not ridicule them and get rid of them the moment they fail once, right? So allow failure to happen, and more importantly, create a culture that thrives on voice. People should be comfortable speaking to you. They should be comfortable suggesting, or making suggestions for change. We call it voice. But what I've seen in India, most of us celebrate silence. We don't like when people speak up for change, because you are a squeaky wheel now. We promote yes men. On one way, we promote yes men, and the other way, we say we want innovation to happen. Innovation will only happen, creativity will only happen when you allow people to talk, right? So now just link all this together. When you trust people, when you empower them, when you allow them to fail, when you create a climate that allows people to speak up, what happens? Magic. And what is that magic? You create what we call the notion of psychological safety. Everyone feels at home now at work, right? The warmth that I feel at home is the same warmth I feel at my office now. Now, how possessive I am about my father and my family, I'll be equally possessive of my company, my leader, and my people. When you create a climate of psychological safety during crisis, your people are going to be with you, right? It's not your problem anymore as a leader. It is our problem, right? So half of your problem is solved. You don't even realize the crisis is hitting you, because your people will embrace those crises and say, hey, sir, what should we do? No, because it's our problem. It's not your problem anymore. And most of the time you're left alone because you have left out this people centrism from the equation. You focus on tasks and tasks and tasks, and you say, hey, people, be with me, we are in a crisis. You'll say, get lost, right? But if you treat them well throughout, and you remember, COVID-19 is, we're not talking about COVID-19. There is crisis hitting organizations on a weekly basis. And you know what, when you treat your people right, a crisis is like any other ordinary day. That's it. Okay. So summarizing what I said, right? We need to fix the leader. There's 3 steps of spiritual healing, which I talked about. Now the leader is sound in great mental health, great logical health, emotional health. At the same time, you need to get people by your side. And I've talked about 5 things you need to do to get people on your side. Now the crisis hits you. What do you need to do? Just 3 very important things. I'll just take 5 minutes and I'll stop and I'll take questions, right? 3 things you need to do when a crisis hits you. Number 1, you have to acknowledge, recognize that we are hit by a crisis and be very truthful, transparent to every stakeholder group. Do not make false statement that, it might not affect us or it will all get over. No, don't make false statement. Acknowledge, realize, and be transparent about the crisis and tell everyone that, boss, we are in trouble. There is a crisis hitting us, right? Number 2, once you get this communication through, you have to personally, emotionally communicate to every stakeholder, especially your internal stakeholders and your supply chain folks, that this crisis, yes, although temporary, is going to affect our personal and professional lives. Emotionally and empathically communicate this message. Don't run away from this very important narrative, because it's going to affect us, but temporarily. And then you tell everyone, we're going to solve this together. Right? It's just not my problem, it's our problem. And let us all solve this problem and tide through these troubled times. Right? So that's point number 1. Recognize that we are in a crisis moment. Now I'm in a crisis moment right now, as you can see, right? So just give me 1 minute till I get my lights on, right? There is a outrage. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, everyone, by the time Sir is able to come back, if you have any questions whatsoever that you would like to ask related to this topic, we would be addressing those right as soon as Sir's done. And there are a lot of questions already come through. We will try and do as many as we can. Sorry, Sir, back to you.
Okay, all right. So, so that's 1, communicate. Number 2, you have to prioritize. You can't do everything during crisis. See, what happens during crisis, everyone is anxious. Everyone is facing palpitation. So your mind is not working. So when your mind is not working, don't think about 20 things you need to do. Just think about 3 things you need to do and focus on the things you don't have to do. Communicate very clearly that these are the things we're not going to do. And team, these are the 3 things that we will do. Please remember the top 3 things in your list accounts for 80% of the total variance that you need to pursue. That's always the case. Okay. And finally, I'm rushing through here. I know I've taken a lot of time. The 3rd thing you need to do during a crisis situation is to, is use a model of distributed leadership, right? So on a normal day, you are taking care, you are driving the ship, you are steering the ship, managing your managers, managing individuals. But now you don't have to manage individuals, you have to manage teams. Break up the problem into as many parts as possible. And you know what? Get as many people within your organization involved in solving those mini problems. Because people are anxious, they need to be engaged, right? And in that mini teams you create, make sure there are folks from different functional areas and different age groups in this mini team. Because, at that time your brains are not working, you will have great perspective from different functional areas. Right? Like liberal arts at Flame, right? I'm not promoting or selling Flame out here, but I'm talking on leadership. But it is all about interdisciplinary perspective towards solving your problem, right? So if you have people from different generations and different functional areas in mini teams, you will get such great solutions. And your job as a leader is to pump in positive energy to all these group members and communicate between them. That's it. And that's crisis management in my view. So fix yourself, make sure there are people next to you, and these are a few mantras to navigate and steer your ship during a crisis moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the entire, entire really, really good tips and really good insights there. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. And I think one of the key takeaways is that, you should always remember the leader is also a human being, not a super person, not a Superman or a superwoman or something. Because that's what I think everyone expects these days. Once you're a leader, okay, you're supposed to solve everything and you're supposed to know everything, how to go about it. In a time of crisis, it's a first time for possibly everyone. Even if you take COVID, for example.
Absolutely. And take care of your leader first.
For sure.
Crisis.
For sure. I think we have quite a few questions. Yeah.
Sir, one of them is that what according to you is more important being a leader in today's world? Is it planning for contingencies or improvisation when things do not go according to plan? In fact, this question also does I can connect to this because there was one very famous German general by the name of Field Marshal General Erwin Rommel during World War II. And he had written a book on strategy. He was the one who had, in fact, coined this phrase that no plan survives contact with the enemy. So you always have to be ready for contingencies. You need to be able to improvise. So what are your views on this, sir?
Well, I'm always a fan for contingency planning. All right. Yes, you don't know when and how. So no matter how we prepared, we wouldn't have been ready for COVID-19.
Yeah.
So that's the argument for let the crisis happen, tab ka tab dekh lenge. And that's the right. But I remember addressing this panel of YPO and EO in different parts of India. They are all very, very successful entrepreneurs. So I asked them a very simple question in one of my talks. I think it was a Mumbai chapter. I think I asked them, what do you think is the base rate of entrepreneurial failures? I asked them this question. Right. And they started guessing, some of them guessed 40%, 50%, 60%. And then I showed them my data. And I said, look, the base rate of entrepreneurial failure is a whopping 94%. And I thought when I share this data with them, they will all get panicky, they'll start sweating. But none of that happened. They will say, theek hai, professor, please move on. I say, what move on? Are you not afraid with this data? Which means if there are 100 entrepreneurs sitting here, this data tells me if I conduct this lecture maybe 10 years later, maybe 4 of you will be here. 96 of you will be wiped out. Yeah. Right? They say, no, sir, we don't feel that way. I say, why? Well, because we belong in the 5% category. Bad things don't happen to us. Bad things happen to other people around us. Right? So I feel that we as human beings, we tend to be overconfident. Right? And that's the base rate. And because we are overconfident, it's very important for us to have a plan B and a plan C. Mm-hmm. Right? So if I'm managing an organization, I'll ask myself, what if this main supply is not there tomorrow? What am I going to do? I just think about it. Right? How do I de-risk? So it forces you to de-risk, right? By thinking about contingencies. And henceforth, because if you don't think about contingencies, when trouble comes to you, you are thinking about solving that problem in panic.
Correct.
And you can't take the decisions at that time. Right? So my response to that question is, I would strongly encourage everyone, because we are overconfident, to plan not one, but multiple contingencies.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Sure.
Yes.
So another question that's come through, and you emphasize largely on creating an environment of safety and working on culture of your company as a very important role of a leader. Now, I mean, the whole idea is also, as the saying goes, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Now, the question is, in this scenario, given the current circumstances, due to the unprecedented crisis we've seen at hand, a lot of teams have started operating remotely. Okay, work from home is being seen as a very large part of the future of work. How do you go about creating the culture, but now through these virtual channels without physical proximity and presence? Are there specific ways of doing that?
Well, I think the new normal will be working from home. You rightly said, right? And this working from home, we talk about trust and empowerment.
Right.
It becomes much more important when you embrace that new culture of working from home. A lot of leaders out here, they would want their people to count the amount of, how many hours do you clock at work?
Yeah.
Thinking that it's a great proxy to productivity, right? So I'm leader, I'm sitting in my cabin, 8 baje, I expect everyone to be there at 8 o'clock as well. And if this person comes at 8 and leaves at 5, kaam nahi kar raha hai. This guy could be my most productive person, right? So there's a mindset issue in India with a lot of leaders.
Correct.
Right? So leaders with this traditional mindset who just clocks the number of hours of work that an employee puts in. That person will be paranoid when this guy is working from home, because this leader will be living in a hallucinated world. Kya karta hoga? Kaam karega, nahi kar raha hai, right? Are you going out for, are you going to, go out for personal chores? So I think and those leaders need to be prepared. They now need to start trusting their people, and rather than counting the number of hours you've clocked in, I think a measure of productivity should be set in within the culture. So I'm going to measure by your outcome and not by any other measures that I used to, have in the traditional past, for example, right? You need to invest in so you need to invest in great communication software for sure. All right. Given the you talk about culture. So I need to invest. I need to, refocus my evaluation on getting the job done with metrics of quality rather than counting the number of hours. I stop worrying about it. But I'm more worried about this work from home, getting the employee to get less connected with people. See, when I go to office, right, I have side chats with my colleagues. There's a rapport. I get a change of environment. I get refreshed all the time.
Correct.
Right. So I think what organizations need to do is to find ways to reinstall connectedness between their employee and his or her colleagues, right? So more regular meetings, celebrating small wins, get everyone in a Zoom TV and, let's celebrate, let's have fun, right? Let us, celebrate a birthday together virtually, right? So that connectedness is something that organization needs to work upon, because it's going to be very easy for that employee to get disconnected from relationships at workplace.
Yeah.
Right?
So there's another question, interesting one, which has come up, is that, as a leader, the leader who is there has to deal with, different age groups in an organization. And you have a vast, kind of let's say a population over there. So in fact, to give you a bit more relative, let's relate that to Flame University itself. You have UG students who are, let's say, between ages of 18 and 21 years old, PG students who are, say, between 22 and 26 years old, and you have faculty and staff which are easily 30 plus years old. So the question is, as a leader, what are the different challenges you face in dealing with these different age groups?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think, forget Flame University and dealing with different age groups. I've dealt, in my personal and professional life, with multiple age groups. You're talking about the baby boomers, the Generation Y, the Generation X, the millennials. And, there's a lot of literature out there that says that puts them in different silos, right? And I think that is not true. Yeah. What I've realized is, so I will divide the workforce into older workforce and younger workforce. It's as simple as that, right? The younger workforce are more tech savvy than anyone else in this world, right? So leverage that, right? Social media savvy, I mean, outstanding, right? So I would put them in such positions, obviously. But, I saw this video, this YouTube video by Simon Sinek, and he talks about the millennials wanting instant gratification, and he's so right. So the communication channels would need to be altered. So when I'm dealing with a younger workforce, how do I deal with you, Shravan and Advait? How do I deal with you? I mean, do you pick up the phone and call me, or you send me text messages? Remember yesterday what happened?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, forget both of you. I used to live in a duplex in Hyderabad, and when dinner was ready, my daughter would send me text messages, "Daddy, dinner is ready," when I'm just upstairs. And I used to shout and be mad with her, say, "Aapka gala kharab hai kya? Can you just not shout at me?" See, right? The way they interact is very different. So younger generations, we need to understand that their communication styles are different. The way they interact is different. And we can't blame them, but we need to adapt ourselves to their communication styles, right? And the younger generation, they need to be involved, they want to be involved in everything. So, you have to think of metric structures and keep them involved in different groups.
Yeah.
Right? They want to contribute. Right? And that's what I've seen in the younger generation. Older generation, mere ko bolo kya hai mera KRA, you don't change my KRA, chalega. Chalti ka naam gaadi, right? Younger generation, your KRA needs to change because I get bored very quickly. right? So cross-functional teams. So you need to rotate them and make them feel involved in a lot of things that you do, right? And you know, communication. So if I get an email from a younger generation, for example, I'll be very honest here. You know, when I get email from someone who is 40 and above in my organization and a student or someone younger, I would tend to respond to the email of the younger, you know, colleague much more quicker because they're more impatient, you know. And if you don't respond on time, they will misread your intentions. And they won't think you are busy, right? The older guys, you know, Childika, you know, when the person gets time, he will respond. They're more patient. So you need to adapt to the different styles of communication, growth opportunities that they want. And I think that the main difference would be keeping the younger generation involved, using them for tech, social media, you know, activities, for example, leverage their expertise, and also understand their communication style.
Correct. Yeah. So are we open for another few questions, or would you guys want to go for the last one or two?
Sure.
Perfect. So one of them that's come through basically is this person has said that it's great food for thought, and they're wondering, you know, given that you currently are working at an organization which is going to be part of raising the next generation of leaders, what are the ways in which through the program and the curriculum at Flame, whether it be the different streams that are being taught, whether it be, you know, the business, arts, science, etc., what are the different ways in which leadership lessons are being imparted to students at university, at Flame specifically?
Well, brilliant question again. And like I said, you know, we, one of our mandate at Flame University is to basically generate responsible leaders that can take India forward, right? So, you know, empathy is something that, you know, is of great importance for us, because end of the day, if you don't have empathy, you can lead.
Yeah.
And through multiple immersion programs, right? Advait and Shravan, you guys have been part of this program. Advait, why don't you, you know, talk about your experience, given that you've been a student and you are currently an alumni? I'll just add on.
For sure. I mean, I think one thing which is very unique about Flame, given the entire campus-driven experience that we have out here, is that the learning outside the classroom is almost just as much, if not more, than the kind of learning we have within the classroom confines. And a lot of it has to do with, in fact, the immersion experiential learning programs that Sir just referenced. So, I mean, for me, one of them that's really stood out, which actually, you know, taught me a lot of what I'm applying even today at Eatable in our startup, was through DIP. Now, for those who do not know what DIP is who are watching, DIP is Discover India program. It's one of the flagship experiential programs at Flame, where it's a year-long research project. The entire batch is divided into groups of 10 to 15 students. I was the group leader of my team. And for the entire year, we visit different parts of India. We do on-ground quantitative and qualitative studies. We create intensive research reports, presentation exhibitions. It's very intensive. And it's one of those experiences where almost on a daily basis, you have, you know, different crises, like just crisis after crisis after crisis, because you have tight deadlines, cutthroat competition. You're trying to create magic in your first ever academic, you know, research program, so to say, at an undergraduate level. So out there, you know, a lot of what you referenced was some things I could actually get like from our experience throughout DIP. And not just that, you know, one thing that even when you were referencing all of your different insights, I don't know if everyone noticed this, but you were pulling from a variety of different fields while doing that. You were pulling a little from philosophy, a little from psychology, trying to bring that, because I think truly knowledge is very largely, you know, and leadership is very, very multidisciplinary. So having a broad exposure to multiple disciplines, being put in situations and scenarios through these immersive programs really, really toughens you up and gets you into the experience of actually being able to lead people and manage people, and you know, almost simulates what you would perhaps have to go through in the real world in a way that your in-classroom experience can't fully do justice to, you know. I think Shravan would also be able to add on to that.
Yes, so I agree with what Advait has said. And in fact, specifically the leadership roles which I took, one of the greatest things I learned is the toughest resource to manage, no matter what it is human resource. Because every person is different. You need to, you know, understand every person. Like Sir said, you need to respect people. You need to understand their point of view, and then you need to proceed. So being in that leadership position, it was a tough call. At times, you actually have to decide whether pleasing one person and upsetting the rest of the batch is a better decision, or is it, upsetting one person and pleasing the rest of the batch. And these things are often faced. We always continue with this. And at Flame, this opportunity was given. And the biggest thing at Flame is we always have a safety net. At the end of the day, we are students. So if we do make a mistake, there's always someone to step in and say, okay, you did something wrong. It's fine. Your learning phase, you can carry on. However, when you're in an organization, things change. If you make a mistake like this over there, you're probably, you'll be thought about whether to, whether you're supposed to be given any other position in the future or not.
Sorry to interrupt, Shravan, but summarizing that question here, we have enough of experiential activities. We do have a civic, experiential activity. Year one, we have, a cultural experiential. We have an industry experiential activities that allows you to apply what you've learned in class in a real world out there.
Correct.
Right. So happy to answer further questions in detail by the side if you want more data. But end of the day, we want to prepare students that can take India forward, and that requires you to, number one, empathize, for you to understand differences in culture, differences in societies, right? For you to have a mindset of public service as well while you lead your organization, and that's the motto that we run Flame with. Should we just take one more last question?
Yeah, sure. One, I think, other interesting one, which I think is very relevant to today's times, and again goes back a little to where you're uniquely positioned to answer this, was what kind of advice and what kind of, what are your words of advice to the new leaders that are graduating today? I mean, especially whether it be the graduates, my peers, Shravan's peers, who are just coming out into the job markets in perhaps one of the most difficult economic times that we've had since a while. Right? What do you have for the leaders of tomorrow? What words of advice would you have for them?
Well, I know for a fact that, students today are very paranoid. Students who are graduating during this time, it is very unfair to them that they are stepping into the work world in such chaos.
Yeah.
Right? It is affecting their mental health, a lot. It's just affecting their mental health. Well, my advice to every student, right? Each and every student in India, all over the world who are graduating right now, is for you to define your success, right? Have a long-term perspective on success, and how do you define success, right? And I think you should define success by how happy you are, right? Does career, so what makes you happy? It's not only career. What makes you smile? So, draw a smiley and take 4 or 5 lines out of that smiley and ask yourself, what makes me smile? Because if I smile, I can spread positive energy to others and myself as well.
Yeah.
Correct? So what makes me smile is, yes, my career. Right now, it doesn't look good, obviously. And for the next 1 year, hiring is a problem, correct? All over. But that's one part. What makes me smile is also my relationship with my friend. What makes me smile is pursuing my hobbies, right? What makes me smile is travel. So you have to make a list of things that makes you smile, your sense of purpose, and then ask yourself, look, it's just a big pizza with multiple slices. Yes, one slice looks rotten right now, but it doesn't mean life sucks, right? Yeah. Life from a holistic perspective. And you know what, this crisis situation will not last for long. It will get over. Opportunities are going to come back. Now you cannot cry and say, "Abhi humko opportunities chahiye." No, abhi nahi milta to nahi milta. And some of your batchmates are going to get opportunities. Don't compare and cry, please don't, because in the long run, both of you will regress to the mean. Life goes up and down. It's like it's like the regression, the best fit line that you draw amongst the dots, right? So सबके life में ऊपर नीचे आता है, right? So I am graduating, you are graduating, you get a job first, but yeah, maybe after 5 years, I'm much more better than you. You never know how the future entails. So don't be myopic and don't compare with your batch groups right now and feel dejected. So this is a time for you to, eat the other slice of your pizza, cherish with gratitude, right? Make good friends and offer, and work as interns outside. It's okay if you don't get paid, but you'll create networks out there.
Correct.
You create more friends, more networks, and when things open up, once the skies open up, the networks in the corporate world that you create will lend you great opportunities later. So why not, right? Build your skills, take more courses, sign up for internships, I would say. My strong urge is for all of you to sign up for internships. Don't worry about the money.
Yeah.
You have a long life, you'll make your money. But the networks that you will create in these internships will bear fruits later on, mark my words. Right? So, so define your success by how happy you will be. And remember all your life, happiness is a function of the 5 pieces of pizza, not one, not only your career. That's the first piece of advice, right? Number 2, never ever think that you can fight your battle alone. You need mentors. Even I today, my father is my mentor. I call him every day, right? I have my mentor in him, right? When I have problems, sometimes I feel cornered, I speak to him. So we all need mentors. Please remember, right? Do not keep your problems to yourself. And I'll tell you, you'll get great comfort in finding mentors in your siblings and your parents and some of your great friends. It's time for you to cherish those friendships and those bonds and speak to them, right? Most of the problem of mental health is I keep things to myself. And I think I don't want to share my problems. Theek hai, don't share with the whole world, but share with a few mentors. I'm telling you one thing, all graduating students, during troubled times, everyone will ditch you. Your parents will not be there. It will always be there, right? So never ever forget, to be in touch with them, to show them that you love them all your life. You are what you are today is because of them, right? And during crisis situations, they are going to be there protecting you. Look at where you are today. Your parents are there. Say, beta, don't worry about it. I'm there enough for you. Right? So invest in the relationships with your parents all your life. Please remember that. That's my second word of advice. You'll get busy in future, but never let a day go without calling them. That's the least you could do, because you're going to be parents one day and you're going to be yearning for your kids as well. All right. So number 1, think about success from a holistic perspective. Number 2, build strong relationships with mentors, your friends, your parents, whoever they are. You need mentorship. All right. And speak about your problems. Very, very important. And remember, adversity is their part and parcel of life. Always look for silver linings. COVID will go, life will resume. But if we adopt a mindset of seeing the glass always half empty, we'll never be satisfied with our lives. Actually, the glass is always half full, it's not half empty. So look for silver linings and be happy, because you need to be positive. And remember what I talked about, gratitude, right? And look at those research data, look around, right? Go to any hospital and look at how people are suffering. So as long as you embrace gratitude, you feel positive about your well-being. And the moment you are positive, you spread positivity. And life bahut choti hai, right? So do not spend your entire life cribbing by comparing other people's happiness. The biggest cause of unhappiness in human beings is we resent other people's happiness. Yeah. And the young generation, you are in the social media and you're always seeing other people's great life. Jaake dekho na yaar kitna great hai uski life, right? And when you compare, please remember, don't compare line item. Compare the entire package, your package and that person's package. I'll give a very simple example. I may think that I'm driving a smaller car. I'm living in a bigger house. A smaller car in a smaller house. And my friend who has very bad GPA, is driving a Mercedes Benz and is living in a bungalow in the poshest area in Mumbai, for example. Mm-hmm. Then I will tell Almighty, what is this, yaar? Where's justice in your court, right? And I start cribbing. Yeah. But I'm saying, if you want to compare the whole package. I may be having a smaller car. I may be, living in a smaller house, but I've got friends who would die for me. I got family that loves me to infinity. And I'm blessed with great health. I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want. And the person I'm comparing with, gaadi badi hai, bangla bada hai, but it's a loner, no friends, family detests that person. And you know what? That person is plagued with bad health. Who's better off? So when you compare, Beshak, please compare, but compare the whole package. Then you realize that, all of us regress to the mean, right? So that's your secret to happiness. Keep life simple and keep smiling.
Perfect. So I think we have a lot of other questions I don't know if we'll be able to do right now. I
will, you have the repository of questions and the email ID, and I will respond to all of them via email.
Okay, perfect. That works really well. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this incredible session. I think a lot of us, I think I can speak for myself and Shravan when I say that we have taken away a lot from this, and a lot of action points to start working on for ourselves, and I'm sure others would agree. Thank you so much for this incredible session.
Pleasure is mine. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
And thank you everyone for participating.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. So I want to thank you, Dr. Kamdar, Advait, and Shravan for such a wonderful session. And I'm sure all of you, have, just like me, have big takeaways that we need to work on from the tips and lessons that Dr. Kamdar shared with each of us. I think one of the things, the biggest learning that I have from this session is when you think about it, the reality is really the mirror of our inner world, right? So I think Dr. Kamdar emphasized a lot talking about how we work on ourselves, how we respect each other, be more authentic. And I'm hoping that this is really the purpose and the goal of our ConneXions series, is to be able to bring the common points so that we can all see differences, but also work on our what we need to focus on. So now I want to introduce you to our upcoming webinar. The next upcoming webinar is Analyzing and Visualizing Data. It will be hosted by Professor Rupa Kort from Flame University with Professor Pauline Oos from Netherlands. She is also the director of Wage Indicator Foundation. And here at Flame, we have student projects with Wage Indicator Foundation. So I want to welcome you all to sign up and register on this webinar on Wednesday, June 3rd from 5 to 6. So thanks again for everybody to join such session. And you will be also receiving a recording version of this very shortly. And we will try to compile your questions and hopefully try to answer as many questions as possible through emails. Thanks again and enjoy your Saturday afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.